You met Beth a little while ago, but we're going to bring her back, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Beth Avey is president and owner of Heartland Communications Consultants, an Elizabethtown-based marketing communications firm. Of late, she and her team have had the privilege of working on two distinct regional initiatives, the One Knox she described and Wired 65. In recent months, her work has centered on the launch of Kicks.com, the Kentucky-Indiana Exchange, a regional web portal that helps link job seekers to employment opportunities, employers to the region's best talent, and prospective students to the training and education they need to fill higher skilled jobs. Beth is a graduate of Syracuse University's Newhouse School of Public Communications and received her MBA from Western Kentucky University. She's going to be talking to you in a minute about top careers for 2010 and beyond. And then we're going to hear from Mike Levisi, who's going to talk to you about green jobs of the future. Mike has served as HR manager for appliances supply chain since 2009. Since 2000, he's held roles as HRM for Consumer Home Services and Appliance Park and Senior Counsel for Labor and Employment. Before joining GE, Mike spent 18 years in private legal practice in Louisville, where he represented businesses in labor and employment law litigation. Before joining GE, Mike was the lead partner for Woodward, Hobson, and Fulton's Labor and Employment Practices Group. Meet Beth and Mike.
Again, everyone. I'm going to use the podium this time because I have some materials. I think in your program, it indicated that my colleague Barbara Nygaard would be presenting to you today, but unfortunately, she had a family member with a medical emergency, so I am here in her absence and honored to do so, but she sends her regards. Wired 65, what is that, right? Okay, ready for this? Wired stands for Workforce Innovation in Regional Economic Development. That's a mouthful, right? But essentially, it's a U.S. Department of Labor program that provides funding for regions to help folks like you, job seekers as well as employers. It helps all of us as a region work together better, provide programs that meet your needs. And the 65 moniker for our Wired region is just indicative of that interstate that cuts through the center of it. And that's the reason that we're here today. Wired 65 funded the creation of a web portal called Kicks.com, the Kentucky-Indiana Exchange. If you haven't been out and about on the floor, please go ahead and visit the table and get some more information. And I'm going to show you a little bit about what that's about towards the end of the presentation. But as we built that regional web portal, what was important to us and the Wired 65 leadership team was to make sure that it was a reflection of this region. It was about what employers needed, and it was about what job seekers should look for. So the first thing we did before we ever started to create the web portal was to do a comprehensive employer survey of the region. We attempted contact with more than 23,000 employers with 5 or more employees. And we had a very good response rate. Over 5,000 responded. And it's important to note that it's not just the first 5,000 that we talked to. It had to be demographically representative of the employer base in this region. So if 10% of the employers were in the healthcare sector and small to medium-sized businesses, then 10% of our respondents had to be that way. So why is that important to all of you sitting out here, right? The answer is that oftentimes when you're doing research about career fields or you're looking at occupations or professions that you may want to pursue, the resources and information available to you are often based on data that's old and also not necessarily regionally relevant. It's oftentimes a national statistic. So the information that we're presenting in this presentation, as well as on the KICS portal, is customized for you. It's regionally relevant. It's based on what the employers are telling us here, not some national statistic, and it's current. The survey was conducted from November of 2009 through March of 2010, okay? Let me see, let's see. Next slide then says, And these were some of the, let me go back one and show you something. When I talk about the Wired 65 region, I'm talking about 26 counties that encompass 7 in southern Indiana and 19 in Kentucky. We're already a regional economy. The statistics say so. The data says so. But the Wired 65 initiative is helping us work together better to provide resources to you. And as I mentioned, the survey looked at things like projected growth based on industry and occupation, hiring plans or hiring trends, turnover, salary information. And what we determined were some trends based on a variety of different things. So the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is growth. And this is all industry-wise that you're looking at on these slides. But you can drill down into this information by occupation. And you can do that on the KIX portal, on the Kentucky-Indiana Exchange. But here we surveyed businesses, and we asked them to report what the current number of employees were and the number of employees they projected in the next 12 months. And what this slide essentially says is good news. See that? Everything's pretty much trending positively. And the leading indicator is construction, which is, it's a precursor of good things to come. So we were very pleased with that response, and we think it falls in line with what we're hearing. The next thing we looked at is turnover, and no surprises here. Oftentimes, you're going to see the highest rates of turnover in the retail and in the lodging industry. So nothing really new to report here, nothing startling. The growth one was more exciting. And then the next thing we looked at was demand. Demand is different than growth, okay? Demand is calculated by starting with the projected growth, adding in the turnover, and then dividing it by the number of currently employed. So let's take a look at what those findings were. Again, you'll see, because the turnover is calculated in, the trends for the highest demand are in that retail and lodging. But then immediately following that, you can see construction, as we talked about, a leading indicator of very positive things to come. Health services. So if you're thinking about where you want to target, your job search, obviously we always hear that the healthcare industry is a strong employment opportunity, has strong employment opportunities. Take a look at services. A little while ago I talked to you about Fort Knox. For every 2 new jobs on post, 1 job's created off post. Okay, so we know that some of that data is reflective of that growth down in the southern portion of this region, because there's going to need to be another employee at the dry cleaners, and another lawyer might need to set up a practice. So it's all reflective of that. And on a broader scale, of course, all across the region. But you can see where some of the trends are. Again, all positive. Let me see, the next slide is, we looked at openings. Okay, this one, when I was reviewing this with Barbara, because she said, I'm not going to be able to make it, it made me scratch my head. Because I said, well, where's all these 1,400 job openings at Fort Knox? Why are the highest 2 agriculture and construction? And not that that's not a good news story, but I thought, well, something's missing. Okay, what that was is when they did the survey, they looked at the current number of openings. When we surveyed, that was from November to March. So the Army at that time did not have the vacancies. I think now they have upwards of 900 vacancies. So it's not reflective of the hiring trends at Fort Knox in there. But